Tally ho, my name is Kingfish Ocean and welcome back to Ambre. This is a visual novel that I started a while ago. I mean, if you've already watched the first episode then you'll already know, but I apologise for not getting back to this sooner. I kinda did forget about it, I'm not gonna lie, but we're gonna jump straight into this. The way they organised their weekend allowed for more festive time. It was time for outings. It was out of the question for Ambre to get bored, to stay shut in the tight and bleak flat again. She had to have a change of scenery. So they went to lively places. The pool, the amusement park, the ice rink, the movie theater, restaurants. She had to try everything. Every week was a different universe to her. Running along at a brisk pace with her impeccably polished shoes, the little girl jumped from ride to ride while hanging on Tristan's arm. It warmed his heart to see her having innocent fun. In front of a smile that big, he could only imitate the girl's mood despite himself. Ah, that's cute. Every time, when she would inevitably ask for dessert, a pancake or an ice cream, he would watch her spreading whipped cream on her face out of the corner of his eye. The temptation to lick the dab of ice cream from the tip of her nose or the corner of her lips was nearly too much. That's a little bit weird. You don't lick ice cream or whatever off a little girl's lip. That's really fucking that's really weird. Such a display, both childishly and unhealthy, tickled his darkest thoughts, his most pitiful thoughts. Yeah, apparently they do tickle his darkest thoughts. However hard he rejected them with all of his strength, his hands became sweaty and trembling. His hands confessed his torment. But Ambre couldn't understand. Ambre was just a little girl. Only a little girl. The months flew by at breakneck speed. Tristan refused to admit it, but his young friend was growing up. He wanted to ignore the fact and turn a blind eye, but the unstoppable passage of time had already started to do its work. Ambre was going through a strange crisis. That evening, she was particularly angry and proclaimed vigorously, "I don't want to be a child anymore." "How so?" "I want to become older." "You have plenty of time for this, Ambre." "I want to become older faster, that way I can do more things." The 30-year-old man sighed. He obviously did not know how to answer such assertions. He had never had a child and... Wait, what? I thought he did. I'm confused. He was not very good at calming down revolts regardless. Taken aback, he left the girl to sulk in the living room to take a long, relaxing shower. While he was soothing his worries in the rush of hot water, he displayed an angry pout. "That's not fair. I wish I could be older right now. If I only had a model." "What?" "I wonder what Tristan's wife looked like, for example. I'm sure that she was a kind person. But he never wants to talk about it. He avoids the subject. It could just be that he's hiding something from me." Intrigued, Ambre took advantage of his absence to open a drawer that she had never touched before. Inside, under the telephone directory, was a big leather notebook. Convinced she had found treasure, she grabbed it and opened it. It was a photo album. Spread on the pages were bright smiles and tender gestures. Ah. Browsing through the pictures, the little girl discovered her guardian, young and dashing, in the arms of a coquettish young lady. Okay, I got an achievement for that, but whatever. Dressed soberly and tastefully, she was strolling along the seashore with a shawl on her shoulders, or in a park holding an ice cream. But what caught her eye was a very specific picture that towered in the center of the album. Tristan, wearing a suit. He was leading his lover out of a church with clumsy footsteps under a shower of flower petals. Ah, they got married. That's cute but sad. She looked so happy, so fulfilled, in her large refined white dress that Ambre was stupefied. All the more so as the bride looked exactly like her. "She's so pretty." "What are you looking at?" Tristan's sudden appearance made her jump, so much that she dropped the forbidden object. His gaze darkened immediately. "You searched through the closet to see what my wife looked like, didn't you?" She answered in a shaky voice, guiltily. Yes. Are you gonna scold me?" "Of course not. I just would have preferred that you didn't see it." "Why? Why didn't you ever talk about her? I want to know." He sighed, appearing upset as he looked into those begging eyes that he had never been able to resist for long. Reluctantly, he sat down on the couch and told her how he had met the one that he thought would be the love of his life, and related all that they had gone through together. Ambre listened with wide-eyed attention. She liked that story very much. Tristan seemed to briefly get younger as he evoked the past, describing how head over heels he had been for her and how happy she had made him. Their peaceful and ordinary everyday life was something the little girl envied. Caught up in the tale, she couldn't help but pressure him. And then, what happened?" Until the light shining in the man's eyes brutally vanished. "And then she left." "Where to?" "For away to a place where I can't reach her anymore." Every day I pray that she'll somehow hear me, and that she'll wake up. That she'll remember me. I don't know if she'll ever emerge from that dream that's keeping her captive. Is she dead? Sometimes it feels like it, but no, she's still alive. Just in a different world from mine. If I could have joined her, I would have. I would have sacrificed everything for her, and today, she's forgotten me forever. Did she have, like, dementia or something like that, or like a mental, like, health disorder or something that meant that she'd forgotten her? Or maybe she lost her memories or something like that. She's just amnesiac or something through an accident. I don't know. That's sad. Tristan sighed again. Head down. As a heavy, crushing silence came between them. Amber stared at the photo, bewitched by the woman's smile. Deep down in her heart, she had an odd thought. If I was older, I could replace Tristan's wife and he wouldn't have to be sad anymore. That's cute, but kind of weird. Oh, wow, that's pretty. I like the little purple light. That's really cute. That night, she left a devastated Tristan lying as immobile as a statue on the sofa. Slipping between the covers of her cozy bedsheets, she felt helpless. If only she was older. The thought took root more and more violently in her mind to the point where it became an emergency. She had to become Tristan Mallory's wife. No, don't do that. A new routine seized little Amber. It was now another question for her to stay a little girl. She wanted to grow suddenly as a butterfly, a beauty cursed by its ephemeral life. Thus began a kind of adolescence. She no longer woke up in the morning when Tristan went to work. She waited until midday to surface and took her meal out at that time. She's definitely getting older. Oh, teenagers. Tristan did not call her at the usual hour anymore either. He knew that she would not be in the mood. After a brief meal, the young girl watched television while leafing through magazines bought with the pocket money her benefactor gave her. Her afternoon fluctuated between American TV shows and beauty tips, between the pages of the magazines that she learned how to become pretty to seduce men, an idea she liked a lot. I really don't like where this is going. This is turning into freaking lifted dreams all over again, and that ended really weirdly. She wanted Tristan to look at her, to take an interest in her in a different way. To be seen as a woman, she had to act as a woman, but she absolutely didn't know how to do this. These magazines, which were overflowing with tips of all kinds, seemed like an El Dorado to her. Through the articles, she learned how to act, how to become a true lady. It wasn't very complicated. She only had to keep a close watch at all of her gestures, to constantly control her every movement so as to convey the best image possible. She had to track down all human weaknesses, every inconvenience, and walk with a relaxed and self-assured air, but not too much or she would frighten, she would crush. Amber nodded as she was reading what the editor wrote. Of course, she had to be open and smiling, but not so much that she came across as exuberant. She had to laugh often, but not too loudly, as was what hysterics would do. She had to be independent and take initiative, but only if the situation lends itself to it, and in a non-threatening way. If she knows how any of this works, and she's a pretty smart little girl, she had to show herself to be as natural as possible while enhancing all her advantages with a note of makeup. Amber understood the necessity of buying some in order to become a true woman. She had to dress in a feminine way to demonstrate her worth, while being sober enough as to not attract unwanted attention. And then she was advised to learn to listen to men, not to talk too much, which would be selfish, but discreet. Be discreet but present, available as soon as needed without really showing it to him. This is, whoever gave these tips out is coming across as really sexist. To not talk too much and just to listen, that is basically saying know your place, and that's really sexist. As she turned page after page, the young girl felt a pressuring urge to spend money on all the products shown in the advertisements and praised by the editors. After all, she would need them in order to seduce the brave Tristan. How else could she have the slightest chance without cheating a little? Further down, a revealing psychological test claimed that Amber would gain more affection by acting like a fragile little girl. Men needed to be reassured of their virility and of their protector's role. Plus, she was too vulnerable, too frail. She couldn't manage anything worthy without some help. She had to find validation in his eyes, validation of her very existence. If he thinks that I'm pretty, I'll be pretty, like in that photograph. Like this, Amber spent her afternoons reading tips from women's magazines, training herself to conceal, not feel. When she wasn't watching a series, often romantic ones, she was shopping in the city to bring back clothes, accessories, and cosmetics. How old is this kid and why is she allowed to go out on her own? The city, like the television, constantly spat images of absolute and infinite love, of a perfect and purifying love. Like a drug, an obligation, a flawless pleasure, and an order. Every billboard sold the same dream, oh so cliché, oh so desirable. It was the pursuit of the fairy tale formula, and they lived happily ever after in opulence and had lots of children in the end. Novel and movie heroines all ran after the same goal, after the lure of profit, wealth, luxury. A life where everything would be easy, but where everything would have lost its taste. A dull and hollow life, an eternal masquerade. But this existential emptiness was just as easy to fill. You only had to consume and be consumed. You only needed to devote your soul to spend even more, to remove the vestiges of nature, to hide that ridiculous body, too personal, too imperfect, too real, and to replace it with an ethereal sheath, a mirage. You only needed to spend without restraint in order to conquer the piggy bank of your dreams, a mere machine that gives banknotes and weak orgasms. What? To prevent yourself like a diamond, a beautiful, shiny trinket that everyone would have in their living room. You only needed to destroy your own value, immaterial, and replace it with cold, hard cash. So apparently this little girl is learning all the wrong things right now. And then, you only needed to bask in idleness, go around in circles in your cage without any purpose to continue living in a dignified way, wandering like a lost soul, disguised as a clown that drips with a red, grim automaton. Your needs to fill the hole, the absence of life, the disease that devours your blood, all your authenticity with money, always more money. Bye 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 until you forget the unease, the angst. Bye bye bye. Bye 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 bye. Chicken and the salmon. Ambre admired today's celebrities, these picture-perfect idols on which nothing stuck out, bodies without even the slightest trace of life. Their uninspired songs only glorified a permanent state of pleasure, pleasure without toil. Like mass-produced Barbie dolls, all the celebrities merged into a single canon of beauty, deemed as unsurpassable, absolute truth. The stars dived into this endless cycle of vanity with such ease that it was truly fascinating. Every minute that passed after a singer's first success was a minute of intense scrutiny as the whole world glued its eyes on the morbid show that was her slow suffocation, her imminent drowning. Nothing could be more enjoyable, more exquisite, than staring at those young women slowly being engulfed by the shadowy tentacles of their dreams. They sacrificed their bodies to the cut of surgical scalpels, at the point of no longer resembling themselves anymore, to the point of transforming into some kind of wonderful monster. Yeah, we kinda get it. Can you kinda hurry this up a little bit when I get back to the story? They had rejected their personalities and histories to melt into the mold, to conform themselves to the public's every expectation, to become the showcase of modernity, the icons of the single form of happiness that was advertised at every street's corner. A form of happiness that little Ambre stared hungrily at. Becoming a star seemed out of her reach. Looking like one was a duty that women's magazines never ceased to remind her of. The frivolous press, so uncomplicated, so fraught with consequence. Finally, when Tristan Mallory came home at the end of his working day, he would find Ambre waiting hand and foot, trying to cook delicious meals for him. Ambre always elegant, craving to look her best, like a little perfect housewife with a strong character. He was past the point of missing the innocent days, but in all honesty, he didn't even understand why the young girl was putting so much effort into becoming such a perfect creature. One evening, while she was cooking a usual dish, one which the recipe had been recommended on TV, accompanied by a candlelit table in order to celebrate his birthday, he dared to ask, "But, Ambre, why are you doing all this for me?" Holy shit, that's kinda creepy. The honest question hit like a ton of bricks. His complete incomprehension sounded like an insult. She probably spent hours gussying up in the bathroom, hours to appear fit to be seen, fresh. She probably spent hours tidying the house, cleaning every nook and cranny until it was spotless. She probably spent hours decorating, hours taking care of this godforsaken roast, laboriously cutting vegetables, and here he was asking why she was trying so hard. The knife in her hands fell violently to the floor, emitting a metallic sound very much like an ill omen. Why am I doing this? Ambre's voice trembled dangerously. While getting close, he noticed her hands were shaking frenetically. Eyes wide open, soaked in tears, she exploded. "Because I want you to love me! I want you to look at me! Why don't you ever look at me? Am I not good enough for this? Is that what this is? I would never be as good as she will I?" She? But Ambre, who are you talking about? Dumbfounded, Tristan held her in her arms as tightly as he could. No, he truly couldn't understand. He couldn't understand these intense and sudden sobs. Reassured by his gesture, Ambre wanted to explain herself. I'm sorry that I'll never be able to replace her." Who are you trying to replace, Ambre? Tell me. "Your wife. I can see that her departure left you very sad. I wanted to bring a smile back to your face. I wanted to take her place so that you forget about her." For a split second, Tristan Mallory was breathless. It was surreal. He would have pinched himself to make sure he wasn't dreaming, but no. The pain in his chest was far too real. too pitifully carved into him. How could he answer such a declaration? How could he find the right words? Catching his breath with difficulty, the 30-year-old man took Amber by the shoulders and looked in her eyes for a long time. After a brief sigh, he affirmed, "Listen, I will never be able to forget my wife, alright? It's impossible. I'm sorry, but that doesn't mean that I don't want you. It's the exact opposite, actually. You're very dear to me, Amber. You hear me? I need you. You already have her place." "That's a bit weird. Don't make this weird. So please, stop crying. Don't make it even harder than it is." The young girl shyly dried her tears, and her features changed to an adorably naive expression. She looked sincerely despairing. "You're okay with me?" "What made you think that I'd abandon you, huh?" "Nothing. It's just that you seem to love her so much, and I got jealous." "Why is that?" "I don't know. When I look at these pictures, I can't help but tell myself that I must absolutely make you happy. I think I love you." And this is where it gets weird. Nope. I know little girls can have crushes and stuff, fine, I get that, but please don't go any further, because Tristan felt all the courage and determination he had worked up melting away overnight, and he started to sob as well. "But I love you too. I've loved you for so long, and I love you so much that it makes me sick." "For real? You're not treating me like a kid?" "Of course not." "No!" "Then prove it." What do you mean?" "Show me your regard to me as a true woman." "You want me to do that?" Amber suddenly nodded. She seemed dead set on it. You had to fuck it up, didn't you? You had to fucking... This just ruined all its credibility. I'm not okay with this. Who made this and why did they do this, okay? Why did you do this? Why couldn't you just let them be like a father and daughter instead? Why did you have to make it weird and make them lovers? Fucking... The warm and pleasurable feeling went to his head. For a few seconds, he felt as if he was holding his wife in his arms, as if she had come back for real. "You need help, Tristan." That delicate skin, which smelled deliciously like vanilla, reminded him of happy days. Long afternoons spent laughing in the sun, peaceful evenings under the light of the stars or by a fire, or a shared umbrella to shelter from a storm. She was here, so close, yet so far, within a finger's reach. He only had to close his eyes and believe in this dream. The illusion smiled faintly at him. At his limit, he embraced her. "If only you knew how much I love you." He had so many things he would have wished to tell her, so many that the flood of words blocked his throat and nothing could come out. So, for a lack of words to make her understand his feelings, he used his body. What? When dawn's rays of light crept through the window, Amber was deep asleep, lying atop Tristan's still lukewarm body. Eyes surrounded by dark circles, the weight of regrets, a fatigue he couldn't get rid of, he stared at her with a sad smile on his face. "It was just a dream, wasn't it? When you wake up, you'll be a child again, right?" The only answer he got was a light groan. Softened by such a serene face, he left a kiss on her fresh cheeks. As soon as he did, the sleeping lips spread to form a happy smile. "I wonder what you're dreaming about. Say, won't you invite me over there?" From that strange night on, in a paroxysm of lies, Amber got Tristan to agree to become a more or less official couple. Thus she demanded an engagement ring and did not hesitate to walk the streets locked to his arm. Suited wasn't enough for her anymore. Eager, voracious even. She couldn't merely settle for the girlfriend status. She needed more. She needed to surpass the woman who preceded her. Her invisible rival, whose shadow was always looming like Damocles' sword. So she dragged Tristan to wedding shops while dreaming of a perfect ceremony, of her big day. The magazines, the advertisements, the television, the whole world was yelling at her that was what happiness was. So wasn't it only natural for her to embrace it to the fullest? Wasn't it every little girl's dream? Marriage was promised and sold like a real-life fairy tale application. There was a very expensive, beautiful dress, a princess's dress. The bride had to be the story's heroine, and everyone only had eyes for her. And then she would have at her service all the cosmetic and superficial accessories in which the stars constantly bathed. Famous singers all lived in some sort of permanent wedding, a strange and unlikely fantasy. Amber too wanted to taste this heaven the world was constantly singing the praises of. So she pushed Tristan to please her. He proposed to her, and both of them organized the ceremony with great pomp. That's kind of adorable, but this is really messed up. What the fuck? I thought this was gonna just end with, like, her family finding her. What? On that day, Amber, still so frail, seemed to shine more brightly than ever. On that day, Amber thought she had finally erased all traces of her rival. But it still wasn't enough. The life she was living didn't seem perfect enough just yet. She still needed something else to be truly fulfilled. She wished to start a family. Why? After all, the world had sold marriage to her as a never-ending fairy tale, but she still needed a goal to keep on living. And it was said that her biological role, her natural role, was, of course, to procreate. True women should obviously yearn for becoming mothers, an unchanging law that was probably written somewhere in a fragment of DNA code. A true woman had the duty of having a child, preferably a girl, so that she could educate her with the same moral code she had received. AKA, if you're a kid, let's go fuck adults. A living doll to play with, brush her hair, play tea time with. You want to busy yourself with something, fill your existence, or access some kind of eternal fantasy, one or the other. A desire? A project as a couple? Or just an implicit order that came deep within your entrails? Amber had read and seen everywhere that those who didn't want kids were automatically unhappy without realizing it, which isn't true. Immature, almost disabled by selfishness or neurosis. True love should bear fruits, just like the princess could only be revealed as such by a prince. That's where Cinderella's myth lay. Amber didn't know it yet, but the clock had stopped ticking long ago, and it was dangerously approaching its final moment. Tristan Mallory took rather coldly the eagerness of the young girl to procreate. He did his best to clumsily claim that they had more than enough time, they would see to that later, that he was ready to wait, but she kept insisting more and more. Months went by and the young girl never tired of reciting all the things that she intended to do with that providential baby, describing from A to Z how she would dispense their education, and the accessories that would be necessary. Her biggest wish was to give birth to a little girl that she could gussy up as much as she wanted. She was sighing, while imagining how she would shower her with gifts, how she would go shopping with her and evolve into a kind of cool and friendly big sister-like mother. Scolding? She was way too afraid that her future child would hate her to even think about it. Her angel had to love her. It was obvious. She would be a good mother and everything would go perfectly in the best of all worlds. Amber spared no arguments to convince Tristan. Motherhood became in turn the realization of a little girl's dream. The logical and infallible consequence of a lasting relationship. The greatest proof of love that could ever be. A way to conform to the norm. Months slowly, dreadfully went by, to the rhythm of Amber's growing obsession. She was always eagerly awaiting a sign, watching out her body for the indication of good news. Try after try, she repeated that this time would be the one. However, she had to face the fact that something was wrong, that something wasn't working. She might well desperately attempt her hardest, she still wasn't pregnant. A shower of doubt started pouring down on her mind. Tristan tried to minimize the problem. Assured her that it wasn't a big deal, that it would happen someday, and that they had so many other things to do together, but Amber wasn't listening anymore. She absolutely wanted to go see a doctor to get her body checked up, to understand the problem and fix it. She wasn't going to give up so close to her goal. Her partner avoided the subject as much as possible, appearing distant and refused any medical checkup. Every time the young girl approached him to talk, he gritted his teeth, feeling that the situation was becoming more and more tense. She was getting too close to the truth, and he couldn't afford it. There were too many things at stake here. So he held on. He tried all he could to reassure his love, to convince her to rid of those unwanted thoughts. But Tristan, shoulders yielding under the weight of his burden, was too tired to anticipate Amber's every move. He didn't see the disaster coming through, even though he could have foreseen it. This is creepy. One day, while he was at work, she took the opportunity to go to a doctor who resided in the city center hospital. She explained the situation and begged for him to help her bear children. He gave a long sigh while staring at her from head to toe, and in an unctuous voice, he kindly whispered to her, "You know, there's no need to try that hard. You'll only hurt yourself further. Don't bury your head in the sand. You're very well aware of your sterility, aren't you? It's not the end of the world, you know. There are assisted procreation techniques that work very well nowadays, like in vitro fertilization, for example. Why don't you try to think about that?" Why do I get the feeling that Amber, the little girl thing, is not actually true, and this is actually Tristan's, mind going back through the story of his wife, and that maybe they didn't have kids, and then maybe Amber will die or something, and it's actually the story of his wife instead, and he's imagining the whole thing. It's still creepy, though! The young doctor had tried to be as positive and comforting as he could, but the harm had already been done. Amber was in shock. Her dreams had just crumbled to pieces in an ocean of dust and litter. She left the hospital completely distraught, speechless, stiff, moving as mechanically as a robot. She heard nothing of the last kind words the doctor pronounced. All she knew is that she had to go home. Once outside, the sky's blinding gray light made her lose her bearings. She was in the city where she had always lived, yet the buildings, the cars, the people passing by, they had all turned to ghostly and haggard silhouettes in a dark, upside-down world. Her sight became blurred little by little as she staggered aimlessly. The city crumbled into a gigantic pile of ashes. The voices of the pedestrians around her corrupted into an inaudible language, metallic and meaningless. Amber managed to reach the park, instinctively, not really knowing how. A terrifying dread was seizing her from the inside. Unable to see, unable to understand anymore, she let herself fall on the grass, pupils wide open. All of a sudden, the grey-filtered images of her past came back to her, and reality brutally hit her in the stomach. It's impossible. Why? Why me? Even though I am normal. I'm not trash. No, it's impossible. My dream. I wanted to be happy. She remembered. She remembered the mirror. The mirror. The crude light above the mirror that showed her all her flaws, all her imperfections. The excruciating need to be perfect, to be flawless. Flawless like the models, the actors, the singers that were on every screen, that were constantly seen. To be seen, to be admired, to have every corner of yourself analyzed. Never relax, be irreproachable, take care of everything, hide everything, keep everything deep inside, even if the fragile surface is going to crack under the weight of your lies. The mirror in front of which she carefully put on makeup for long minutes. That miraculous product that could erase those damned imperfections, those damned traces of humanity. Shave her legs, not leaving a single hair, frame her brows, choose the best outfit to make sure that she showed herself to advantage, add a layer of makeup on her face to make the identity disappear in favor of a single form of beauty, a majestic beauty, an artificial beauty, impossible to attain. The mirror in front of which she would weigh herself, in front of which she would tell herself that she would be careful of what she eats, become thinner, become more beautiful, more desirable, throw up the excess, keep only what's essential. Admire yourself in front of the mirror. Throw up that unwanted vital pulsation. Throw up what's dirty to become cleaner, inside and outside. Destroy the dirtiness, everything that is dirty, become pure, immaculate, perfect. The mirror, the eyes of others. That permanent mirror vanity, believing you exist, destroying yourself bit by bit, becoming unable to survive by yourself, to stand the growing loneliness, the pathetic struggle against your own being. Mind almighty against the body, forcing it into submission, forcing it to remodel itself to fit your every wish, forcing it to become your soul's one and only avatar. Not being able to accept yourself anymore, the endless impetus after time, nature, and constant effort to kill yourself to prevent yourself from existing, an ethereal body, fantasized, a corpse's body. The mirror is scrutinizing the depths of my heart. It knows everything. It sees everything. I can't escape it. I cannot escape. Locked in by her obsessions, Amber convulsed frantically while letting out her piercing shrieks. It has to stop! It has to stop! Suddenly, the emotional pressure became so strong that she completely lost all sense of reality, and her mind cracked up. She didn't move anymore. She no longer pronounced a single word. Motionless on the park's grass, terrified eyes immobile, you could have believed she was dead if she hadn't been breathing faintly. The world seemed to freeze, explode, die in an insufferable shriek of agony. Her world. The clock had struck midnight, but Cinderella wasn't ready to give up on her dream. But anyways, guys, I'm going to leave the episode here for now. The next episode is actually the last episode of Amber, so be sure to tune into that when it comes out. But this episode was really goddamn weird. Like, what the hell is going on with this, like, 30-year-old dude suddenly wanting to, like, kiss and, like, have sex and get married to, like, what's probably, like, a 10 or 11-year-old girl? It's fucking weird, and I don't like it. I'm really hoping that that's not the case, because if it is, then that's going to be really creepy. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Pip pip toodaloo!